All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Desert Farmer Podcast. This is episode 27. We are in August of 2024. And before we get started, we've got some great questions. One left over from last week we're going to jump to here in a minute. But we got some good questions coming up today. One of them, a big topic always this time of year, is irrigation. So we will be talking about that. But before we get started, housekeeping. Our main housekeeping note for questions today is what?
If you have a question, write question and then state your question. There is like a lot of comments, like you guys make a lot of comments and we read them all, but we may not actually say all of them just so that we can stick to answering your guys' questions.
So if you have a question, and then state your point.
Yes.
All right. So first thing up, I know, jump over to our questions real quick. There was something I wanted to discuss before we get into questions. I don't remember what it was.
Was it the playlist that someone was talking about last week?
Correct. So last week we had talked a little bit about a video that was sent to us from one of our now good friends who's in Vegas and has been here on the farm a few times and has done a much smaller version of a lot of the things that we're doing here and changed them. Did a great video for us and it was very encouraging to us to see what he had done. So taking a lot of the things we do here, made them his own and really made them fit his space and the Vegas area. So really enjoyed seeing that and remembered that we actually had a few folks send us videos a few years ago. In fact, I think the last video that we actually had in that playlist was from 2021. So height of the pandemic, we were getting folks sending us videos, but we'd really like to get an update from you guys. So if you guys are willing to do it and you guys have taken some of the things that we've done here, we would love to see that video and share it with everybody here. Or if you would prefer not to share it, we don't have to. You can make those private and just send us a link and we can see it. So either way, we would love to see it. So that was housekeeping number one. Housekeeping number two, Mars may not be here yet.
He's here.
Oh, is he? Yep, he is. Okay, so he hasn't asked a question yet, but usually he does have a question for us each week.
Oh, what we're drinking.
Yes.
It is have you seriously considered making some kind of sparkling wine, Dwayne?
I don't know if we've seriously considered sparkling wine yet, have we?
I have never considered it, to be honest.
We made one on accident one time. That was explosive. So wine today, gosh, I can't really get a good shot for you guys, but that is our Syrah. This one we finished in December of 2022. So this is almost 2 years old as far as aging. You can see just a beautiful red wine. Now, I don't know if we'll have any more of these after this year because the Syrah vines are really struggling, but let's try the wine. What do you say?
Oh, I've already been trying it.
I already know you've been trying it. I haven't yet. That's really good. We were definitely back sweetening too much.
Yeah.
In 2022, that's too sweet.
Yeah.
For me, so I prefer them dry or off dry would be a good description. But it's got good tannins in there because of obviously being a red wine. A little too sweet. There's a tiny hint of bitterness, but really good red wine. So it's one that we choose when we go to restaurants if we can find a Syrah.
Yeah.
So it's a good variety. Yeah. I just wish the vines did better. We may have to we're going to replace them, but we may not necessarily get rid of the ones that are actually living. We'll have to figure that one out.
Yeah.
We'll see. Okay. Question from last week. I know we need to get to.
Okay.
Right?
So yes, we had a question on pecans. So types, what size should I get to start? Watering schedule. Yeah. I was lucky enough to grow up with fully mature, massive trees. So first time thinking of planting.
Sure. So we started planting our pecan trees. I believe it was 2020. I think it was fall of 2020. Maybe it was the winter of 2021. So all of our trees are about 3 years old or so, 3 to 4 years old. And they are struggling, quite frankly. So we actually take a step back. Pecans come in type 1 and type 2. You need one of each because they pollinate differently and at different times, but you need each type in order to ensure pollination of your catkins, which turn into your fruit. So you need to make sure you get one of each. And one of the things that we struggled with here was it the type 1 that wasn't surviving on us?
So we had the type 1 that we've gone through 4, because we planted 2, never came out of dormancy. The next year we planted 2 more, never came out of dormancy. So now we bought a potted one. Yeah, and that one's doing good.
Right. So, and actually out of the 3 trees that we have, it's almost 2 years younger, year and a half younger. And it is the best tree that we have as far as performing. We get some blight on the trees. They really don't grow very quickly at all. Very, very slow. So these trees, at 3 to 4 years, the rest of our trees, we've pruned heavily to keep them below 12 feet. These guys are 6 feet tall and about maybe 2 feet wide. So they are growing extremely slow. They take a tremendous amount of water. So we actually wind up overwatering our big mulberries in the back. We are putting 180 gallons a week on them.
And I try to get back there at least once a week and do a deep
water at the same time. So they take a tremendous amount of water. These trees, when you see them in Phoenix, they do grow here. They produce here. But you'll find that they're all on irrigated properties. And that is the key, because they take just a whole lot of water. So that extra watering this year, and we were doing 90 gallons twice a week last year, peak of summer. We're doing the same thing this year, and then we're adding the additional water, and it's the only thing keeping them green.
Yeah, they look much better this year than they have, and it's because of that extra water. Now, I was reading comments when you first were talking about this. Did you talk about that you do have to have a type 1 and a type 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So you need both types. So we have the varieties that we have. We have an Elliott pecan. We have a Mahon, I believe is how you pronounce it. Both of those are type 2. Those are our oldest trees, and those are the ones that still struggle. And then we have the Western Schley, which is a type 1. And we're not going to add any more pecans. We've got the 2 type 2s and so we've got a type 1 and a type 2. The potted Western Schley is doing much better than the 2 bare root type 2s. So whether or not that was an issue of the type 1 or type 2 or the potted tree, I don't know for sure. I will say they're very expensive. The potted tree we bought 2 years ago, and it was how much? A couple $100?
$200 that I bought the potted one at Richard's Garden Center. And Dwayne has so many times like, let's just rip those out. I'm like, we have spent almost $1,000 on pecan trees. I am not going to rip them out until I have to. And
they are our worst performing trees.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything worse. I suppose the persimmons are not growing very fast, but they've at least put fruit on. These haven't done any of that. So now, not to say I'm trying to talk you out of it, but just realize what you're getting into with these. So they are difficult. So it's not something I would suggest to somebody who hasn't had some experience with them before. We didn't, and we've struggled. So we've lost several trees, and the ones that we have now, the amount of water is just overwhelming.
Oh, it sounds like they haul water too.
Okay, yeah. So if that's the case, oh boy. So get an idea of amount of water. We're putting over 200 gallons. That's an entire IBC tote every week. So that's how much water we're putting on those trees, just trying to keep them alive in the middle of summer. So again, not trying to talk you out of it, just realize what you're getting into. We do need to just give an update on the pecans so people can actually see them. I know we've talked about doing a little bit of a farm tour for you guys. We haven't done that in quite some time. And we've got to make sure that we bring those up because we haven't given a good update for everyone. So we need to do that. So we owe you guys that.
Well, maybe we can get them in next week's vlog.
Yes. Anything else that I missed on that you can
I don't think so.
So all that, we're really hopeful that someday, somewhere over the rainbow, we'll see some pecans around this place.
Yeah, that would be nice.
It would be nice.
And I'm going to kind of jump ahead just because on pecans. So I had... I've heard pecans can take up to 18 years to fruit. They take a long time.
Yeah, I've read it takes pretty much a minimum of about 10 years, and we're not even halfway there. So the good news is, I think for us is, they're 3 to 4 years old. So in the end, they're 6 feet tall. So if they're 12 to 15 feet tall and they finally give us some fruit, that's fine. I think the biggest thing there is just realizing just how much water they take, which is, it's just overwhelming.
Another one, health benefits of pecan. I mean, I mean, who doesn't love pecan pie? But like, what are the health benefits of pecans?
So the biggest thing there is healthy fats. That it's a nut. It's a tree nut. So obviously, if you're allergic, that's a problem. But it is a healthy fat. So if you get into the advantages of fats and the health benefits of fats, from your skin to brain health, heart health, you got to be real about that. Energy production. There's a lot of things about healthy fats, and that is a healthy fat. So, obviously you got fiber in there as well. And so, fat and fiber, those are the two. Fiber is easy to come by on this farm. That's not hard for us to find because all the fruit, all the veggies, and obviously the nuts will give you that. But healthy fats are harder to find on the farm outside of our meats. And you guys know we raise a lot of livestock here. So, we never buy meat. It's always, our own meat at this point. So obviously there's healthy fats in that as well because of how we raise our animals. But a good healthy fat, it's obviously a vegan healthy fat. So if that's your mojo, then that's a healthy fat for you. So it's a critical one. Yeah.
Okay, so Dwayne, what's a quick good dad vice? And Lori, a quick good mom vice that you can give to the viewers? Anything that comes to mind?
Are you okay? So like just in general about being a dad? Is that what it is?
I'm not sure.
So you got a young parent out there?
This is Mars.
Oh, okay.
Mars Gold.
Oh, yeah. So dad, I'm assuming, no, I'm going to make some assumptions here. So you're talking about for a child as a dad. I think the biggest thing for me that I was taught, even though I came from a broken family, was the importance of respecting you. And the fact that the most important relationship that I can have, shy of my relationship with God, is my relationship with Lori. And so we've always taken that as the most important relationship. I made it very clear to our son, even when he was very young, that the most important person in my life will always be Lori. And the second most important person, because he was an only child, was Austin. So he always knew that, and he knows that to this day. And we talk about that and the fact that he's got a wife now, and that relationship is the most important relationship for him. So I've passed that along, and I feel very strongly about that because if our relationship is good, then it helps him to see what that looks like and be a better husband and dad in the future. So, and tied into that, my job with raising Austin was to raise an adult. It wasn't to raise a child. So yes, they're a child and you're teaching them how to be an adult. So we continuously gave him more responsibility and a little bit more freedom as he got older. We taught him really young, you're going to have a job. You're going to pay. He paid for his own phone starting at age 13. So he was always, very mature in that way, understanding that he was becoming an adult. And he moved out at 19 and he never came back, except for that, very brief time before his apartment got flooded when he was trying to move.
Yeah.
So
and he had to be out of his other apartment.
Yeah.
And had to wait.
Yeah. So and he quite frankly was pretty miserable. He wanted to be back on his own. So, but either way, that's mine. That's my dad advice. What's yours? You're just gonna cry?
I know. I was like, I can't top that. I don't know how to think about that. I wasn't even thinking. I was listening.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Have you had any one of your viewers move to Whitman because of your YouTube channel?
Yes. In fact, we were just emailing back and forth with him.
Well, we
today.
don't know if he moved out here because of that.
Well, I don't know that for sure, but the fact that he moved from the city, was he in Scottsdale?
He might be on here.
He might be. Mark, if you're here, say howdy. But
and let us know. Did you move out here?
Yeah.
Because we lived out here.
Yeah.
But then there was the Chris over here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if he. Are they even done
Roger.
with their house yet?
So Roger from work.
Oh, Roger.
Yeah. So
yeah.
he actually built. He's a welder. He built the bacon barn. So the big pig hut. So he built that for us, and Hogwarts. So he built both of those for us. And I think it was after delivering Bacon Barn, we talked to him and his wife here. And I believe I'm pretty confident that's what brought them out here. So they just saw the amount of space, not far from the city. Boy, a lot different from where we were driving today. But,
oh my goodness.
we were way, way south. But so we know those at least. I I don't know about. I don't think I know of any others that I recall. At least not offhand. So sorry if I'm forgetting you or don't know, but
let us know.
Let us know. What else?
Do you have any new plantings on any of your raised beds?
The only thing that we have that's new planted in the raised beds would be beans. And I think it was just the cowpeas right behind the
Garlic and onion.
It was late, but it was behind the garlic and onion. And I think it took us a few weeks. This time of year, beans are really our go-to. You can plant sweet potatoes as well. You just got to be careful if it slips. So if it's the potatoes, you can plant. If it slips, you might struggle just because the roots are not strong enough to survive the heat. But otherwise, yeah, beans are good to go. I know we didn't do okra this year. If you guys saw our okra video, you probably know why. But okra would be another one. I think it's a little late, but you could still get a harvest off of okra. So, and actually planting season's coming.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about that here over the next few weeks because planting season is definitely, it's at our doorstep at this point. And all of us here in Arizona, we're just happy because that means it's going to be sub 100 within the next, 90 days. Good. We can bounce over to our questions. We'll say,
yeah, you can go over there and then I'll read some more of these.
And make sure if you guys have questions, I know we talked about this, make sure that you put the word question there, all caps if you can, and then what your question is. We'll make sure we do our best to get to it. If we miss it, ask it again. And then obviously Lori's saying, taking a peek at all your guys' comments.
Yep.
All right, what's our next one?
How do we find time for everything in downtime?
Oh, that's right. So I don't remember how that question was asked. I don't know if it came over in an email or somewhere else, but I answered the question wrong because the question was downtime, not what do we do with our time, right? Bounce back over to that. I want to make sure I answer the whole thing. So the first part of that was how do we find time to do it for everything? I think the biggest thing with that is number one, we try to do everything. Again, start with this. The first thing would be we try not to take on too much at this point. So there's a lot of things that we have to get done in any given day, week, month, quarter, year. So realizing that there are things we simply don't try to do. Mm-hmm. So, we have dedicated farm tours because if we didn't do that,
I'd have people here every day.
We would have people here every day. We would have people here all weekend long, and we literally could never get anything done. So we wind up saying no, not wanting to, but we have to say no to a lot of things. So that's an easy example, mm-hmm. But there are things we don't plant everything. You guys suggest a lot of things, and we pick and choose based on what we think we can give time to because time is limited. Mm-hmm. So we simply can't do everything. So that's number one. We had to get good at that. I really was struggling with that with the farm startup and then hit a wall in 2022. So since then, we've really focused on things we know we can get accomplished. That's number one. Number two, we try to make sure we're efficient as possible with everything. We've got a handful of things that we hand water because we haven't decided if they're going to be permanent yet or not. But once we have a permanent planting, we run some type of automated irrigation to it. All of our feeders hold multiple days worth of feed. All of our waterers have multiple days of water. We've had a lot of folks suggest to us to do rain catchment. One of the reasons we haven't is it takes, number one, it's an expense. Number two, it takes upkeep. Number three, we have to remember to go back and use it. So we have passive catchment because at least we're utilizing the water for our growing areas, as opposed to it taking any time for us because we just don't have the time to dedicate to it. Mm-hmm. So those efficiencies are very important as well. So that's really how we're able to accomplish it all, besides the fact that this one right here,
I'm here full time.
Is here full time, right?
Yeah.
So, and the other question was, and the actual question was, how do we find downtime? And I don't have a good answer for that question. Do you?
No. I
don't know the meaning of the term.
I think that the summertime, so like right now we have a little bit more down. Well, I can't even say that because even we get inside by 9 o'clock, but then we're doing wine this time of year. So like tomorrow we have 2 different wines to re-rack and then another one to put in the press. But we've been trying to like Sunday afternoons to maybe stop a couple hours early. so that we can chill and actually watch YouTube or TV.
Yeah, so it's the only time we have. We don't do that during the week. We do purposely work, I think, downtime into our schedule like you're describing. So I work all week long. It's a lot of time. So I'm gone for 55 hours a week. So we in the evenings we don't watch TV. So we leave the TV off, but we'll read. So we do some YouTube things each night, but then we give ourselves an hour to an hour and a half of downtime. So we'll read, we'll talk, we'll do these other things, but TV's not on. It's still warm because it's that 4 to 7 time frame, so we don't have the AC running real heavy. So we just kind of really settle down, turn the fan on, bust out the books, have a conversation, and try to wind down for the day. Helps us to get to bed on time, get some rest. So we do that, and then like you said, the Sunday afternoon. I think the biggest thing with this one, the reason why I wanted to answer it here for you guys is, and they kind of go together, is we've had a lot of folks that have reached out to us and have started doing this, either homesteading or farming. There's a couple small like micro farms that we know of that have started, at least since we've met them, and we've done we've done several consultations with folks trying to do that, and not as many as was happening during the pandemic. That's kind of tailed off a bit, but I think the pandemic drove people out of the cities to an extent, and so they were looking at these types of things. But one of the things that we've seen is folks have this idea and a romantic idea of what this is and what it entails. And the reality is, this is 100% a lifestyle. In fact, I was just having the conversation. My son, Austin, and I commute to work every day. And we were just talking about this the other day. And I was joking with him. I said, you know what, son, it's funny because you realize your parents have an alternative lifestyle. And he looks at me sideways. He's like, oh, you're kidding, right? And I said, no, I'm being serious. There are just not very many people around the world, but particularly in this country, that do what we do. And most people, I'll be honest with you, would not want to do what we do. That's the reality. And so I think this question really brought that to light, because the question was, what do we do for downtime? And the reality is we just don't really have it. And when we're gone, we're thinking about the farm. We have to have somebody here covering us. When we are here, it's pretty much always about the farm. And, we just, the downtime's not really there. You don't have time to do all these other things because your life is, in my opinion, wonderfully wound up in real life. Life and death. We had a couple animals die this week, and those are always heartbreaking. Nothing big, but it happens. We've lost a couple turkey poults. We lose pigs from time to time. We've lost a couple of our cats. So you have these things, but it's real life, and I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it. But the reality is we don't have all these other things that we expect to do. We don't take vacations. We don't go to Europe. We don't do these other things. It's tied up in our time here. And so that's our equivalent of downtime. All right.
So it looks like you must have been talking to someone in Southern California about Moringa.
Yep.
Okay. So just has been failing for years, but we'll keep trying and learning, and we'll direct so.
Okay, yeah. Okay, perfect. Yep, you're saying you were in SoCal. I think that was today. So
was it today?
Yeah, I think so. So let me know where you're at. You said 9B, so I'm assuming inland somewhere. So I know we talked a little bit. One of the things I will say with Moringa, and it sounds like you're in the same zone, is the importance of direct seeding. It really is critical in our environments because our growing season is plenty long enough for them to get established before it gets real cold. And assuming it's going to be in the ground, we've just found that direct seeding is the best way to do that. They have very deep tap roots. And disturbing the taproot at all, ever, during its growth will inhibit it. Potentially, you could break it off and not know it, and the tree will always struggle. So if you can direct seed, we direct seed during our monsoon season. You don't have that if you're in SoCal, but if you know there's going to be a cooler weather dip coming up for about a week to give that start a little bit of time before heat blasts it. But we've got super hot weather here. We started planting at the end of June. That tree's doing fantastic.
It's doing really good. Yeah.
So I think it's about 1.5 feet tall at this point, working on 2 feet tall. So, and we planted that at the end of June. And it's doing great. What else we got?
Planted Thompson grapes last spring in pots. Should I transplant in September?
Yes, I definitely would get that in the ground. So your grapes will always do better in the ground. We had our very first grapevines at our old house was it was in a horrible spot. They were in pots and they grew okay. In fact, we even got a tiny harvest, but they won't thrive for you. So yes, the answer is yes. Plant them this fall and they will be all the more happier come spring. What's up?
It was just another question down. I'll ask that next.
Okay.
What are your top 3 favorite things to consume that grow on your farm?
Oh boy. Okay, well this is going to be fairly easy for me these days because it's chicken, pork, and turkey. I don't know what to tell you. I just feel better that way. But yeah, those 3, if you're talking about meats, obviously that's all we have. I'm a fan of goat. So we will be adding sheep. So I'm a fan of that. It's all going to be meat here, guys. Sorry. But outside of that, as far as fruit is concerned, we got fruit and vegetables. Okay, I'm a huge fan of black beauty squash. I love black beauty squash.
Yeah, those zucchinis are really good.
Yeah, so that would be number 1 for me, I think, in the garden. Because tomatoes are good. All those other things are good, but I think that's my number 1 favorite. Mm-hmm. I eat a lot of beans, especially these days. That's my fiber. So I would have to say beans. And then as far as the fruit, mulberries.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with mulberries. Only because the season is nice and long. We've got all these different varieties, and we put them in our smoothies, so we have them almost every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Peaches.
What would yours be?
Mulberries. Peaches. Loquats and blueberries.
Oh, loquats. Oh, and then blueberries. Oh, man. There's too many. Okay, I'm sticking with my meat. So there we go. So I prefer meat. If I have to use that as one, it would be meat, black beauty squash, and mulberries.
There you go.
That would be mine.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good dinner right there.
Okay. Have any of you had people go up to you in public asking for an autograph or selfie?
Okay, not an autograph.
Not an autograph.
I don't think that. I mean, mine you wouldn't be able to read it anyway. So, but we have run into a lot of people out in public, and it's been interesting. We've run into people in the public, like in whole other cities.
Yeah.
So did we run into somebody at? I want to say we were in another state.
Tractor Supply. It's been, different stores.
Remember we were at that one. We were at a company party. We were at a casino. We never go anywhere. We just said that. So we were in a casino because we were at a company party. We were walking back to our room.
That's right.
And actually somebody had hollered at us from behind. I thought it was somebody who was with my company.
Yeah.
And I turned around and this guy's like waving at us and I'm looking for somebody else. And he walks up and I was like, "Hey, Dwayne and Lori." And I'm like, hey, how's it going? And so, it's 10 o'clock at night. I had had a few drinks. So sorry if you're there or if you're here now. But yeah, no, we have run into some people. It's pretty neat because obviously it happens a lot at places you would expect, like Tractor Supply, Home Depot, things like that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty neat because everybody wants to share what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we always get to share here with you guys. And then we get to hear that back. And so I always walk away with a smile on my face. Because that is really neat.
It's really cool.
Yeah, because, here we are just doing our thing and sharing it. And then somebody else is, growing peaches and, growing mulberries. And they're raising chickens for the first time. And, they're feeding themselves. So it's pretty encouraging.
Yeah.
No autographs yet, though.
No. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
How did you lose your cats?
So the first one, you want to tell the story about, you tell the story about Shadow.
Okay, so we had 5 cats. Shadow, which was our black cat, she was the one that was, she was the most skittish. She was the one that liked to, hide. She would find hiding spots.
We've got a short on YouTube of drawer kittens. You guys should check that out. So
she found the spot how to get up under, behind and
get
one
into
of
the drawer
drawers.
from behind.
Yeah, so Willow followed her. Mm-hmm. Anyways, our son was over one day and doing some stuff on our computer. He left. He calls me a few minutes after he left and asked if Shadow was in the enclosure, and I went and checked, and she wasn't. Well, Shadow climbed up into his car.
Somewhere in the chassis.
Somewhere up in there. Mm-hmm. He drove about 1.5 miles from our house and just happened to see her
going down Patton Road, and he was up to full speed. So he's probably going 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, and she just happened to drop out from under his car, and he saw her in the rear view mirror.
He heard a thump, is what he said.
Okay, and then it looked in the rear view mirror, saw a black cat, and then it darted off into the desert. So he called, and we went out there and searched for hours for
Over
her.
a couple weeks.
Yeah, I was out there multiple days, and we never found her.
Nope, never found her. Now, we had some sightings of her, though.
Yes.
So we think she probably made it. Whether she's alive today or not, I don't know. We don't know. We've never seen her since.
Yeah, but we had gone to someone's house that has some cats, and they have strays and stuff around there, and she said that, she's pretty sure she had seen her there, but we're not surprised that she wasn't able to catch her because she was
really
very skittish with people, even sometimes us. And so, but at least she found a spot that had other cats. The lady had food and water on her patio, so she knew she was coming up on the patio, and so she was supposed to try to catch her for me, and then I just never heard from her.
No. So that was the first one. The second one was Bruno. So he was our big boy. We even called him that. He was a big boy. Big, cuddly, chunky monkey.
Yeah, he was the one that had the really bad eye when we brought him in.
Both of these were strays.
Yeah, and we didn't know if he was able to even see out of the one eye.
No, and I don't know that he ever actually did see out of it well, but he actually was bitten by a snake. So he was bitten by a rattlesnake, and he actually survived a few days, but he was in a lot of pain. We didn't know what happened to him at first. We just thought, he
hurt his
leg or something. We had no idea what it was, but then all of a sudden, we saw the fang marks, and then it just started swelling really bad, and you could tell he was in pain. And so I wound up putting him down. So one of the hardest things I've ever done. I've done harder things, but one of the hardest things I've ever done was putting that cat down.
Yeah.
So that was tough. So either way, so we lost those two, and then the other three. Willow got stung by something, I think, this week.
She got stung by something on the top of her tail because when you go to pet her, if you touch that area, she screams.
Mm-hmm. But she was doing rough the first few hours, and then she was okay. But it's the breaks. They're outside all day, and it's the reality of things. They're in there hunting, being cats and being natural little predators. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What kind of sheep are you getting?
I'm not positive, but my guess is probably Dorpers, maybe a Dorper cross, but we need a hair sheep, obviously, being this hot. Their sheep we found are going to probably be fairly easy for us to find. Obviously, we need a breeding pair-ish, so we're going to probably go with a ram and a couple of ewes to start. And I believe we'll probably wind up with Dorpers. They're pretty common, and so that I think is probably the direction we'll head. So I'm hopeful this fall. I'd like to get them here this fall if we can. And I really would like to we're going to get larger animals to start is what I'd prefer. We'll see how that works out. But I do want to start that program here fairly quick because I want to start that production. So.
And following that, will you be adding lamb to the meat selections for purchase?
Yes. So I would not believe that is the plan. And I'm not really exactly sure how we're going to do that program. It's going to be a little bit different. It's a smaller animal, and obviously it's very expensive. So we always, especially with our bulk programs, we try to make things a lot less as inexpensive as we can because we raise them differently. So the process is a lot more expensive, and I believe the quality's a lot better. But we'll be doing the same thing with the lamb, and I assume we'll probably sell them as wholes, but we haven't really figured it out exactly. But absolutely, we want that for ourselves. That'll probably become our primary red meat source over time, that and goat.
No, I'll do lamb.
But I do prefer that personally, and we don't want to do cattle here. The animals are just too big, and we've got a great source of cattle through friends and family, so we really don't need to do that here. But I do want to have something that we can produce here from a red meat standpoint, and it'll be a part of that program. Great question. What else?
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like the Southern California is San Bernardino.
I had a feeling it was inland. I always think of San Bernardino, Riverside when I think of that. So yeah, you'll be fine planting in probably late June, July. You could probably even plant early June, to be honest with you. We plant around monsoons because the humidity's higher. I don't know enough about San Bernardino to know when or if that happens for you, but summertime planting.
Had said that, Phil, that the Moringa die from a combo of cold and root rot.
Okay, well, that's... So too much water if it's root rot. But direct sow those. And then they don't need regular watering. Well, they do, but they don't need daily watering. So Moringa shouldn't be watered more than maybe a couple times a week. And, San Bernardino, you're in identical, just about an identical climate, just cooler at night. So, direct seed those, see how they do for you. What else?
What is today's cheat meal?
Oh, you can answer that.
We are going to do tacos.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Now, are we doing the high fiber, like the dirty keto tortillas, or?
I don't know. We have some corn tortillas, and then I also have the carb friendly.
Yeah.
Small flour tortillas.
I just call them dirty keto tortillas. So, what else we got?
I'm trying to read this one. I looked into it, but I'll jump here. When are you getting that camel?
Oh man, yeah, no, I don't plan on getting a camel. That would be great, though, wouldn't it? I know we looked at llamas for a heartbeat, only because they're cool. But yeah, I think I'd probably get a llama before a camel, and I don't think llamas are on the list. So
no, we talked about donkeys. We've talked about emus. Emus.
Yeah, actually, if it was a legit posting, we almost bought a couple of emus. You remember that? That was that livestock Facebook group, and then it was not a legit post.
Oh yeah, we were actually messaging somebody about it,
and it was a scam.
Yeah.
So, what else we got?
When will you start fall planting for your new trees?
We will probably start in October. I like to get through the hottest part of the year. You can plant in September, so we're a month away from that. Middle of September, if you talk to Reed, he's going to tell you can plant any time of the year. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you're taking your chances with the hottest part of the year. And then the coldest part of the year has challenges with things like citrus. So, but I think your safe bet is the beginning of October. You guys know we talk about our loquats and that being the planting month for loquats. We do plan on adding a loquat this year, at least one. So we'll probably start in October. And I think the if we do, I know we talked about olive, right? So if we do olive, that will probably be in the spring. So I think those are always potted trees. So we'll either do fall or spring, one of the two. Those would be fine either way too.
So this isn't a question, but they're just talking about mesquite in West Texas. This year, noticed that nearly 80% of the mesquite is dead or dying. Oh my goodness, that's scary. So I know obviously a lot of heat, very, very high heat, and dry. Sooty canker? Oh, so it's a disease. I'm not familiar with that. Wow, that's a nightmare. I know in mesquite trees, when I think of mesquite trees, I think of bulletproof trees. If you can get them, through the first season or two here, you never water them even, unless they look like they're dying. So, wow, that's scary. Good. Do you have a workout schedule, or do you get your exercise from daily farm activities? So I have a workout schedule because I'm not active Monday through Friday. So I do. So I'm up at 3, usually around 3 o'clock, and I have one. So I'm 30 to 45 minutes. I'm working out, and then what sometimes. Do you do? Depends on what I do outside. I'll come in. Sometimes I'll do, just yoga or stretching. And sometimes I will do, trying to do like the presses on the home gym and the rower. But it's not as consistent because it kind of depends on what I've done that day. Yep. A little less consistent. Right now, I really hurt my shoulder, so I didn't do anything yesterday. Nope. That's a good reason. It's a good excuse. Exactly. All right, I want to make sure we get to the topic of the day. So we'll come back to you guys' questions, but I want to make sure we keep moving forward. So are we on our topic of the day? What is our current watering schedule? That means yes. So this time of year, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and I think one of the questions we always get is, okay, what are you doing now? Because we know that August is our highest. August is our hottest month. So it is the highest average temperature. I know July is pretty much right there too, but those average temperatures really make things difficult in August. But that's combined with monsoons and fairly regular monsoons. You guys know that we have higher humidity,
which is relative. It's relative humidity, like for real here for us in Arizona, because humid for us is 30 or 40% humidity. So everybody in Florida, I know you're laughing out of your chair right now, but 115 and 30% humidity is a special kind of heat. And I will tell you that 95% humidity and 90 degrees is also a special type of heat. And I prefer the dry one.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But so those things can change things up as far as irrigation. So what I want to talk about is a couple different ways we irrigate. So the first one is our drip irrigation. So we have a handful of trees on drip irrigation, mainly up here in our tropical area, and a few bushes. We have our grapevines that are on drip irrigation as well. For the most part with our drip irrigation, because most of these plants are smaller, we do not change the irrigation at all for the month of August. There are no changes to that. So we don't skip irrigation, we don't add irrigation. Those are very consistent, and we keep it the same. So again, berries, like your blackberries, your grapevines, things like that, your drip irrigation on small plants, we always keep it the same. And that is, back to that, 2 to 3 days a week. Our grapevines, 3 days a week. Those are getting 12 gallons 3 days a week. So they're getting about 36 gallons each week, spread out over 3 different days. The blackberries are twice a week. Those have multiple drip emitters. They're running for a couple hours. So they're probably getting about 12 to 24 gallons each time. So anywhere from around about 48 gallons or so in any given week. So those remain the same. For the most part, all of our stone fruit, pome fruit, figs, pomegranates, berries, things like that, those all remain on a twice a week, 60 gallons per tree schedule. The exception, we talked about it earlier, are full-size our trees, our pecan trees, and our black Pakistan and white Persian mulberries on the back of the farm that we want nice and big. So those are not ever restricted from a size standpoint. Those are getting 90 gallons twice a week. Now the pecan trees are getting additional water when you remember. So they get additional water usually sometime in the middle of that week. I don't know how many gallons though, right? So
I just put the whole hose on it and just let it run for a few minutes.
Yeah. So they're probably getting an extra 40 or 50 gallons if you're going for a few minutes. Mm-hmm. So, and those are obviously flooded really well. So now we also have other areas that we water differently. We have pastures that we water, overhead watering. We do that at night to minimize evaporation. Those we water usually daily. However, if we get any rain at all, we skip. And then if we get a heavy rain, like a deep saturating rain, you guys know, like you get an inch or so of rain and it pools up a bit, we'll go a few days without irrigating any of those. And then all of our potted plants, those are daily. Same thing, if it rains, we get overcast or anything like that, we'll skip a day. So this is the time of year where we can start skipping some irrigation based on the monsoon season. We do that sometimes in July as well, but definitely in August. And as long as we're not getting those super, super hot, dry days and there's some moisture in the air. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Since you're not saying anything. That's about it.
Reading questions, so I
yes.
can't remember what the
All
last
right,
thing
so I know
you
we
said.
got more questions, but that's our current schedule as far as irrigation is concerned. For the most part, that'll be the entire month of August, and then we move into September, and then once we're here in September, we can talk about September. Mm-hmm. So, but August is August. Still hot.
Mars talking about the way you pronounce coyote.
Coyote?
Says that he's been saying it wrong.
Do you pronounce it coyote or coyote?
I don't know.
Okay.
What is your favorite part of the day?
Sleep. By the time I'm in bed, I'm just ready for that. Bedtime. That's my favorite time of the day. No, in all seriousness, I would have to say that mornings are probably my favorite. I am a morning person. I've turned into it. This has turned me into a morning person. So that's why bedtime is so important, because we've been up forever. But mornings. I really do love sunrise. There's something special about sunrise. There's something special about sunset as well. So I would have to say those two times are my favorite. I'm not a big fan of the middle of the day. I mean, I really am not. I know the sun's at its highest and all these other things, but I'm not a fan of that. And we do videos. We try to get shots of the farm first thing in the morning, that magic hour that they talk about. So yeah, those are mine. How about you?
I would say mornings.
Mornings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is funny. I never considered myself a morning person except for the last 10 years, which is a pretty good chunk of our lives at this point.
It is. Are you going to expand on the water diversion?
I'm assuming you're talking about from the buildings, right? So at some point in time, probably, only because we have, we can probably utilize that water a little more effectively. Right now we're dumping it into wood chips is basically what it narrows down to in swales. Now, in addition, if you're referring to the back part of the property and the runoff that we get, yes. And we've been talking a little bit about that back part of the property. We've started working on it now. The big pigs are on there now. And we're working towards some more permanent infrastructure. We've decided there's certain animals we know we want to have, larger livestock, and we want to have a safe place for them to be during monsoon seasons, especially during the heat of summer. They really need to have areas that they can get out of the weather. So, and then our big pigs during the wintertime, they need to be able to get out of the freezing temperatures and rain. So they survive it okay, but we've lost some pigs to that. And I want to make sure that we have some place for them to get out of. So, that the pigs, the rest of the country does pigs spring through fall. So they've got, your normal beautiful summer weather all that whole time. Our big pigs really struggle in the summer. So we bring our pigs in now when they're small, and then we finish them in the middle of winter when it's comfortable for them. The challenge is we do still get those really, really cold temps. And they're fine. They do just fine there. But they're better, especially when it rains, to get up out of the rain and cold. That's a bad combination for pigs. So we're working on some permanent infrastructure to make sure that we can allow the animals to get completely out of the weather. So that takes money. And we ain't got
We
money.
have a lot of it. What are you talking about?
Oh, that's right. I forgot. We got an endless supply. Something like that. Sarah.
What are 3 things or moments that you liked from the farm this week?
Oh, goodness. These are fantastic. These are like really
This is
good
Mars.
questions.
I feel like I'm being interviewed.
I know. Wow. The 3 things from this week. Okay.
Well, pigs. We got pigs back on.
I was going to say pigs today. I'm going to have to go backwards in reverse. So we got all the pigs. Took another half a day of traveling, but we got all the big pigs on the farm as of now. It's 20.
We have
That will
20
be
pigs that we
finishing
brought in
Yep.
between this weekend and last weekend.
Yep, some great new cross and breeds that we got in this group. So we'll share that with you guys. We'll probably film that tomorrow. That was definitely mine. For me, when it comes to these things, finishing the vlog from the previous week to make sure it gets posted. That's always something for me.
Do I stress you out?
No. Yes. Oh. No. Maybe. That one and
just like I stressed you out driving today.
No, you never stressed me out driving today. Oh, the other one for me was stopping a medication that I've been taking for 25 years.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, that was a good question. So, forgot about that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 25 years. I have absolutely no medications that I'm taking for the first time in 25 years. And I hate medication, like drugs. I'm not a fan. This is as far as we go for the most part. I guess we have decaf. We don't even do regular caffeinated coffee. We do decaf coffee. So those are my 3. What are yours?
Well, pigs. Mm-hmm. I'm here all the time, so.
Was there a particular
day?
We
got baby turkeys in.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess that might have been last week.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, Willow had a ground squirrel yesterday.
Hey.
So maybe Willow catching her first ground squirrel.
That is a big deal. That is a big deal. I'm so proud of that girl. Bum, butt, and all.
Yep.
So, hey, Pam, thank you for the super chat. Pam, you're the best. My goodness. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. Thank you.
Okay, question from the wife. Why do you grow pecans versus almonds?
We have both.
Hmm? Yep. We have 3 almond trees as well.
Yep. So we have 2 all-in-one almond trees, and I can't remember it's the one that's real common in California, and I can't remember what it is. Anyways, so we have 3 different almond trees, and then we have the pecan trees. So, and the almond trees, so far, the only thing that's actually produced for us. So at 4 years old, which is when they start, we got a great fruit set. And then all the ground squirrels ate all of them.
Every single one of them.
They did what squirrels do,
one
man.
Of them.
They knew that kernel was inside there. They chew through far enough to get the kernel out, and then they're out.
Yep.
So.
Can you use mint oil to keep mice away and Irish Spring soap to keep deer from chewing up your plants?
I have no idea how to stop deer, honestly, because we don't have them here. We may have some mule deer that run through the big wash, but I've never seen them. So that's possible, but deer is just not something that we have to deal with. We have mint growing in these pots, but it's roses. So I guess we should probably maybe try that with some of the areas that are an issue. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but we have used like peppermint oil for spraying on different plants to keep not necessarily mice away, but it was ground squirrels when they were trying to eat this when we first planted all the trees in the east or west orchard.
Yeah.
And then different like insects and stuff. Irish Spring, I know I have seen that on like Pinterest and stuff, but we've never tried it.
Haven't had a need to.
Yeah.
If we ever do that property up north, there you go. Maybe that's coming. Maybe we need to stock up on Irish Spring now.
That was from Randy and Jenny from Kingman.
Thank you for. That's why they probably got some.
Have Kingman up there.
Hey, if you guys can give us a thumbs up, that would be fantastic for the guys that are still here, because we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. We got about 10 minutes left. So what else we got, question-wise?
Does your welder neighbor have any fruit trees?
They do have citrus.
Yep, so they put some 4 citrus trees in.
They did put some citrus. They're good friends of ours too. So we said, you can put them whatever fruit trees you want, but I think we got your fruit covered. But yeah, they do have some citrus trees.
Is rain collection legal in your area?
Yes, yeah, completely legal. There's no. I'm not aware of any regulations in the state of Arizona, and there's not any for our county. And I'm just not aware. I'm not aware of one in another county or a city. So if it exists, I'm not aware of it. So, but yeah, we don't have any issues with that here. Thank goodness.
I know.
We still are a little bit Wild West here. Just there's a whole. I'm from California, so I can't say anything about California. What's that thing? Don't California my Arizona. Well, I'm part of that. I'm from California.
You are, yeah.
But it's been almost 30 years. So
yeah.
What else we got?
We have, what do you both plan to air layer and clone this season?
I don't know that we will do anything this season. And the main reason why is we have a propagator. So Chris does that for us here during the wintertime. So again, we had a question that we were answering earlier about how do we get everything done, and not doing certain things is part of that process. And not that it's difficult or it takes a lot of time, but it's another thing that we would need to do. And so we're just learning to divest ourselves of certain things. And that's one of them. So, he's our business partner from a propagation standpoint for our trees. And so we use hardwood cuttings in the wintertime. We may try some soft cuttings in the summertime, but for now it's hardwood cuttings. And that's where those would come from. So those are not hardwood quite yet, although they could be. But those would be our hardwood cuttings for the winter. So we leave those for pruning, and then they go to him for propagation. Good question, though.
What's your favorite thing about soil building under all that mulch?
So my favorite thing is that we don't have to do anything.
I bet you're going to say seeing the worms.
Well, I love that. Absolutely. Yeah. I do love seeing
all the worms under there.
Yeah, there's always worms under there. And, it's funny because you don't think about it. And then we go, pulling them back to do fertilizing, or we're having to do a repair on an irrigation. We pull those back and there's worms everywhere. It's pretty cool to see. But yeah, my favorite thing about it is we don't have to do anything with it. So, we have compost that we have to turn. We do the pig manure with wood chips and we have to turn it and then let it age. So, this one we don't have to do.
Yeah.
It's just wood chips go in, water's underneath, and soil appears, because of that water and wood chips.
Water.
Yep.
How do you keep the romance alive after so long?
Aw, that's kissing on a live stream every time. I think the biggest thing would probably be what she's doing right now. Laughing.
Yes, that's one thing that he has always just made me laugh.
So I think that's the biggest thing. And I get enjoyment out of that. So I enjoy making you laugh. And I realize, I don't know, we probably had talked about this before, but when Austin and Lori and I, and another thing too is spending time together. So yeah. It's always Dwayne and Lori, or Lori and Dwayne. It's never Dwayne or Lori. it's always Lori and Dwayne or Dwayne and Lori. So you're my best friend, and you have been for decades now. I hope it's the same way. I don't know. So I'm very touchy-feely. She's not. I'm
not. I like my space. So.
Yeah, but yeah. So we don't need to go down that road. But so one of the things that so we've always been very close. I'm still close with Austin. Obviously, we're really close. So we do everything together, right? We don't do things that we can't do together, right? Yeah. So we just do things together. And but I remember we were sitting at the table, and you'll know this really right away. So we're sitting at the table, and I always like to crack jokes at the table. And so our old house in North Phoenix, we actually had office chairs around this old janky table. The office chairs were multiple times more expensive than this janky old table that we had. But we did that so we could sit around the table, and we would spend an hour or two, right?
My biggest thing was that we always had to sit at the table for dinner and talk.
And we were both working retail. There were nights when we weren't there. So, but if we were all there together, that's what we would always do. So we're sitting at the table, we're all laughing, having a good time. And I don't remember, I said something, and Austin, you and Austin were looking at each other, and we're laughing. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, that wasn't very funny. Why are they laughing? And all of a sudden I realized they're laughing at me. They're laughing at me, not with me, at me. And so I was like, okay, you know what? That's fine. I don't care. I'll take that role of being the Joker. You guys laugh at me all you want to. And so you've done that on a regular basis.
Ever since, yeah.
You don't hesitate to laugh at me.
Sometimes with you.
Okay, I'll take either one.
Okay, where up north are you thinking?
Not too far.
He is like so far ahead of himself.
This happens. My mind lives 100% in the future. Hers lives 100% in the present.
Today.
So she brings me back down to reality. But probably like Prescott area is probably what I'm thinking, because I still want to be close enough to the city, and there's some areas like Dewey, I know that kind of area, but I know there's some challenges in there too, and I just want to make sure we have water and that kind of thing. I don't know that it will be start from scratch, bare land, build a house, do the whole thing. I'm not sure what that'll look like, and so we're just really starting to think about that for the first time, and that's a long way off. So not sure.
Okay, what soups have you tried those Tapari beans with?
So I eat them every day during the week. So that's my staple as far as fiber is concerned. But we've done the beef and kale soup with those. I think we did a video on those. We have done beans and rice. So we've done beans and rice with those. So basically red beans and rice. I think that's really kind of the only two
So, and we only do soups in the wintertime. We don't do them in the summertime. So, so it's been a while since we've done any. And just, having them with either like ham in it. We've done that. Like a ham bone.
Yep. So, that's, a pot of beans does the heart good. So, and other things, if you know what I mean. Beans, magical fruit.
Will you be doing videos of Chris and his propagation techniques?
So yes, we probably will. I know that Chris is not afraid of the camera, which is great. So I get the feeling we'll be able to do that. I will have to see if we can get that in this year. It'd be kind of nice. I really love to take it from start to finish. So you guys see us doing the pruning. Probably should do like a Shangri-La mulberry or something, because those do really well. But do a pruning on a tree. Take that cutting, you see his propagation, you see all that, you see our transplant, you see us watering them all summer long, and then you see somebody buying it. I think that would be really cool, wouldn't it?
That would be
so cool. You could literally see from start to finish somebody buying a fruit tree. So that'd be cool.
Winston's home?
Oh, yeah, actually. Do we need to unveil it? Because we did the math yesterday. Do you remember what it is?
Wasn't it the Winstonshire?
Nope, it wasn't.
Oh, Winston's World.
Winston's World 1. So it got the largest. We had to do all the. YouTube doesn't help us when it comes to figuring those polls out. So we had to run the numbers and get correct percentages. But yeah, Winston's World got the highest percentage of votes. So at least that's how it stands today. I think we'll give it one more week. I didn't see a whole lot more people casting their vote. So I didn't see a lot more votes. But right now, Winston's World is the one that's way ahead. So,
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Sandra on here, she was just saying how she was getting rid of the shoots from the Jujube and ate one off the.
Oh yeah, off the
Ate
shoot.
one of the berries off of it and actually tasted good.
Yeah, because and the reality is that depending on the tree, it may have been a sapling. So it may be the variety you've always been eating, unless it was grafted. And if it's grafted, then it's whatever the rootstock is. I'm not. Hey, you know what? Oh goodness, I'm so glad you said that. Guess what? We have a tasting. I totally forgot. I didn't see a bead yet here today. Okay, we have 2. Thank you for bringing that up. Who is that, Sandra?
Yes.
So, Pam, thank you for the super chat. That is so awesome. Thank you so much. You are the best. So we have a couple of things. That little guy right there. There you go. Okay, so we have 2 different Jujubes. These, if you guys can see them, the one on this side probably should be your right, so my left. That is an Empress G or Empress Gee, Gee. That is that guy there. They're both round. And then this is a Shanxi or Shaanxi Li Jujube. So both good-sized Jujubes. This one is heading towards the size of a billiard ball, and this one is a solid ping pong ball. And I can tell you, we've had this one before. This is the Empress G. We're going to both try this. So we've been eating this week. This is actually a really good Jujube. It's about perfectly ripe. It starts to get that brown. You see that right there? And there's a little tinge of green, but you've got some yellow. Now, these eventually turn into Chinese dates, so they dry completely, but I prefer them at this ripeness. So I'm going to go ahead and try this close to the camera. You guys can hear it. A little ASMR. That's good. Nice and sweet, crisp. So we talked about this before. So Jujubes, they have, even at this stage, there is some moisture in there, but very much like a dry apple. So, and the flavor is like a dry apple, but very good. And that where it's brown, that's definitely where it's ripe. Already starting to dry out a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but that's a good one. All right. So that is the Empress G. Really good. I have not had this yet. You haven't had one, have you?
No.
Off the Shaanxi Li. Again, a Shaanxi Li Jujube. You can see it's starting to ripen perfectly up top there. I think I'm going to try to eat it up towards the top. So let's see how this crunches. I'm going to let you give your opinion on this one. A lot more flesh.
And the other one was sweeter.
I agree.
This one's more mild. Well, they're both mild, but this one even more so. There's a very mellow sweetness where the other one was
even
a
up.
little more sweet.
So even up at the top. So we talked about that right there. That's where it's the most ripe, and which is kind of interesting because this is the blossom end at the bottom, and it's the least ripe. Anyways, but so this one probably could hang on the tree for. I'm thinking this one's probably going to be better as a date. So we need to let this fully brown. So the biggest challenge we have with the Jujubes, we're here in August.
Devoured.
These are getting destroyed by the birds. And there's so many of them, it's basically impossible to try to cover all these. But they're just getting hammered by the birds. I saw these when we were walking up after dropping off the pigs. And I saw them like, oh man, these are ripe. I'm going to snag them. It's the first time I've seen the Shaanxi Li. So that was good to see. But even like the ant admire, you can see just where the birds have just started taking them out. And then this is the only one of the Empress G that did not have peck marks in it. So, but yeah, really good.
Nice.
I'll tell you what. Obviously, we struggle more with birds out here. We're the only game in town when it comes to something for birds to eat. We've got some neighbors. Nate and Tara, they've got chickens, so they've got some feed out there now. But, food and water, we have it here in abundance. And shelter, because, we have literally generations of birds that have grown up on the farm at this point. And I'm not talking about chickens. Yeah. So that like to shack up, and especially like our kumquat trees. So those things are loaded with those little tiny sparrows. They're everywhere. But either way, Jujubes, guys, I'll tell you what. I am so impressed with how well those trees grow. They're fantastic. They love our heat. I mean, they're not interested in coming out of dormancy until it's well above 90 degrees every day. So, they came out of dormancy really late this year, but It's had a really good fruit set. There's flowers in it now, which means we'll probably have more fruit again in September and October. And September is always a challenging month with ripe fruit. Usually these trees don't disappoint. So yeah, Jujubes. Great one.
Yeah, it's more of an acquired taste though, because when you first start eating them, it's like, but then as you eat it more and more, you're like, okay.
It's almost addicting.
Yeah.
So it's hard to describe because you're right. You try, you're like, oh, this doesn't really taste like anything.
Yeah.
And then you start eating it, and I think it's because it's that apple-y kind of sweetness, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I'm not going to say caramel, but apple's the best description.
Dried apple, yeah.
A dried apple, but not in a bad way where, you bite into a mealy apple and it's like, oh, this is gross.
Oh, yeah, not like that.
No.
Like you dehydrated an apple almost.
Correct. Oh, there you go. That's perfect. And so it's just not dehydrated all the way. But yeah, they're really fantastic. And, there's medicinal properties to those as well. I haven't really dug into it too much, but I know that especially in Middle Eastern cultures and Indian cultures, they use these as a medicinal. So, in teas and things like that, and they do taste good. So it is an interesting little fruit.
Interesting.
And it thrives, guys. It thrives here in Arizona in the desert. Thrives. So that is just a tree you can plant, and you just watch it go. Now, I will say, sucker growth. They're starting to put out suckers, and they will do that. In fact, the comment that we got earlier was somebody trying fruit off of the suckers. So they will sucker on you, but that's just part of the reason why they can do so well. Yeah. Because they can spread those roots and do it quickly. If there's moisture in the ground, they're going to be a fan. But it's a good one.
So we have...
I think we're coming up on just over an hour.
We are. So let's... we have an 8-year-old viewer out there named Trey.
Oh.
And yeah, and so may you also give a piece of advice.
So Trey, what's up, man? So first of all, how did you find us?
Well, I obviously with their parent.
Oh, okay, cool. I was about to say
hello
how
to
cool
my
is that?
8-year-old son.
Oh, Trey, how you doing, Trey? What's up, buddy? So one of Austin's best friends growing up was Trey. So obviously a different one. Yep. And so what piece of advice?
May you also give a piece of advice.
Okay. So I think the biggest piece of advice that I give you is number 1, love your mom and dad. So, and they will love you back, obviously, because they got you here. So that's number 1. And number 2, never stop learning what you want to learn about. So people are going to tell you things that you have to learn about. I agree. There's certain things you have to learn about. But there's other things that you're going to want to learn about. Once you figure out what those are, learn as much as you possibly can, because you will love yourself for it. So always be learning stuff that you want to learn.
Good job.
That's my best advice.
All right.
Yeah, and then grow some stuff.
All right, so we have John on here talking about wood chips and waterfall, and Arizona is how much... It's not how much water, like rain fell, but it's how much stayed on your property. What are the benefits of decaffeinated coffee?
So you still have the benefits of the micronutrients that are in coffee. So the dark color of coffee, there's I'm not going to remember the names, but so there are health benefits of the bean itself, and I'm going to say it's not terpenes, it's something else like that, but that are beneficial from a health standpoint. So now caffeine does have some benefits as well, but I don't do well on caffeine. So I want some of the health benefits of coffee, and then of course it just smells and tastes good.
Yeah, me, it's just the taste.
Yeah, and decaf coffee still has some caffeine, which is plenty for me.
Yeah.
You guys can tell my energy levels are usually just fine without it. I don't need more.
Yeah.
So,
can goats eat jujube leaves and stems and fruit?
yes. So you'd have to be careful with the fruit. So because that can actually, with too much, that could be a problem for them because of how they digest food. But yes, stems and leaves. Yep, they will eat those, no doubt about it. Yeah, the rabbits get to everything they can. So if a rabbit can eat it, a goat can eat it, for sure.
Do you use any of your mulberry leaves to dry and make tea?
We have not done that yet. I know you can, but we haven't. I think drying them's not a bad idea, though. In fact, we use the moringa and other greens in our smoothies. We need to probably make a note of that and give that a shot. Yeah. Because that'd be a good one, too. It's a great green. It grows all the time. So, all right. I know we're at an hour and 10 minutes. Wow, you guys have been fantastic today. I don't know that we got to all of our questions. One ask I have of you guys, if you can, is make sure you guys, if you can ask some questions here. We'll try to answer them here today. If not, we'll add them to our list for next week, but definitely send us questions. So we want to make sure that we gear these towards topics that you guys want us to discuss. Obviously, we want them to be timely, but we'd also like them to be timeless. So things that, we can discuss here today that will also be good for everybody a year from now or 10 years from now. So if you guys have any questions, please send those over. You can do that any way you want. You can email us. You can message us on Facebook and Instagram. You can comment here on YouTube and just ask us to put it into next week's Farmer Podcast or TDFP. So put it in next week's podcast. Please send those over to us, and we will make sure we get those up. And we will try to pick a topic as best we can, like we did today with irrigation. So if you guys can give us one more thumbs up if you haven't done so already, I appreciate that. And then we're going to get going here in just a minute. We'll stay here as long as we can. We'll answer questions as we can. We'll get to them next week if we can't. But as I say to you guys every week, I just want to thank you guys for joining us today on the Desert Farmer Podcast. This is a weekly podcast. We focus on all things desert farming for us here, especially in Arizona, but anywhere else here around the world. If you didn't know it, 25% of the population lives in a desert. Worldwide, 25%. So we're in the minority. That's true, but that's a pretty good chunk of change out of 7 or 8 billion people. Yeah. But one of the things that I always like to say is just we want to make sure you guys understand that we really do appreciate the time that you give us and spend with us here today. The most valuable thing that we have here on the planet, it's not gold, it's not silver, it's not Bitcoin, it's not the US dollar by a long way. But it is time. It is something that is not infinite. It's very finite. We have a very short period of time here, and you guys choose to spend some of that time with us. We do not take it for granted, and we just want to thank you guys for doing that. So one last question.
Yeah, what's your favorite herbal plant to grow here in Arizona?
Oh, goodness. I'm going to say it's going to be a toss-up between oregano and thyme, but I use them interchangeably. Mm-hmm. And I would have to almost bounce that over to garlic. So I'd have a hard time picking between one of those three. I would say I'd probably go with oregano because oregano oil has some amazing benefits to it, antibacterial, antimicrobial, and it's a wonderful cooking herb. And basically you have it year round. It just continues to grow. It's perennial for us. So, it dries out a little bit this time of year, but then it sends out new shoots. You plant it once and you've got it. So with enough space, I'd probably go with oregano. Thyme is not used quite as often for us, and it's a little more difficult to use. And then garlic is only seasonal. So you only have garlic while you're growing it, and then of course while you have it stored. So I'd say oregano. Yep, that's my favorite.
Mars is asking, what if you were to gift a bottle of wine in exchange for a donation?
I can't, we can't do that. So we do gift bottles of wine. That definitely does happen. Mm-hmm. We have to leave it at that. Come see us. All right. I know we got a few more. We'll try to get to some of these questions. If not, we will write them down. Okay, guys, for next week. Again, if you guys can send us over some questions, and then we are going to sign off. So just want to thank you guys for joining us today on the Desert Farmer Podcast. And until next time, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere,
so can you.
See you guys next week.
Bye.